My first job was as a night watchman. I was part of a private security service, but thanks to the fact that they knew I was studying, they did not rotate my schedules during the time I worked there. Obviously, the one that best suited me was the night schedule, so I had to take care of the elderly. Warehouses and a hotel being remodeled, hospitals, and even cemeteries. In the almost 3 years that I carried out this activity, several things happened to me that I cannot explain. On this occasion, I want to share with you what I experienced during the period in which I was a watchman for one of the oldest cemeteries in this city, although it may seem terrifying. I asked my partner if something strange had ever happened to him there in the cemetery. He just laughed intensely, as if the answer were obvious, and told me, "They'll touch you, and boy, it's going to touch." In our first days as a watchman, we had a terribly cold night. We both went into the cabin, made coffee, and almost fell asleep between the 3 and 4 a.m. rounds. My partner's snoring stopped for a moment. I saw an old monitor divided into 4 screens, showing in rotation the images coming from 8 cameras in front of the entrance to the cemetery on the street side. 3 monks passed by with their hands in front, as if they were each carrying something in their hands. I felt my face freeze. Blood. I turned to my partner, who was watching the monitor attentively but without flinching. "What was that?" I asked him, very upset. "Can't you see?" He told me before starting to laugh. I knew it wasn't worth investigating. I made myself another cup of coffee to finish pending tasks, whatever it took to erase that strange image from my head. There are very strange people in the world. I thought the days had passed, and whoever could tell them that a cemetery at night is nothing. Why be scared? Either he's lying to you, or he hasn't seen the cemeteries. On one occasion, my partner and I spent more than an hour searching all over the place for the origin of a girl's cry that could be heard about 10 meters away from us. We searched everywhere, shore to shore, and we never saw anyone. Although the crying never left us in that place, I began to believe in all these paranormal issues. I began to read about it, and perhaps it opened my perspective a little because as a result, I was able to experience more intense things. Seeing the monks passing by at dawn on the sidewalk next to the Pantheon door became almost a daily occurrence. The strange thing is that there were no people walking on that street almost as soon as it began to get dark. It was not a residential area, and already at night our voices were the only ones that could be heard for blocks around. You could say that I had even gotten used to those apparitions until something different happened. Something that still scares me to remember was walking around with the dog that always accompanied us for some reason. Something quite unusual about him. Seeing him run with so much fear scared me. Suddenly, the air began to feel colder, and an extreme silence to such a degree that I couldn't even hear my breathing. It also gave me a strong pain in my chest, as if something had happened. Someone wanted to crush me. Of course, it scared me a lot. I'm not going to deny it. I managed to get to the office by passing through the monitor. I couldn't help but see the entrance camera just 3 meters from us standing in front of the door. The 3 monks seemed to be trying to open the door to enter when I saw that one could open the door. Iron, despite the chains. I yelled at my partner and ran to the gate to push it and keep it closed. I couldn't see anyone, but I'm sure I felt how they pushed the door beyond the weight of that 8-foot-high door. Yes, I know that someone pushed it. My pale companion helped me, and we reinforced the door with another large chain almost at dawn. We found the dog hidden in the depths of the cemetery. If anyone wants to know why I didn't take a photo or something like that, first, let me tell you that when this happens with something like this, taking photos so that they believe you is not something that crosses your mind. This happened about 20 years ago, when we didn't all have a camera in our pockets or a cell phone to have evidence. It doesn't end my experience in this cemetery. I was almost 3 months old there. I had my vacation coming up, and I knew that when I returned, I would be placed in another position, even though I was going miss the cemetery guard dog. I was glad I didn't have to stay there 6 nights a week. I can visit him any other day. I thought, after what happened that night, I will never go back. It was very cold and the wind was already blowing in a macabre way. I felt something. It was about to happen, but I attributed it to the desire to finally finish with that shift and go on vacation, visit my family. Even the rounds to the most macabre corners of the cemetery, I made them with renewed spirits knowing that they were the last. Suddenly, the disturbed barking near the shed caught my attention. I ran there and found the main door open, and I hurried to close it. The dog that accompanied me was also barking, desperate behind my back. As best I could, I put the second chain with the old padlock. When I turned around and noticed that the dog was barking towards the inside of the cemetery, not towards the street. He was barking excitedly towards the main road that was lost in the darkness just a few meters away. And it was there that I thought I saw some shadows moving in the distance, approaching from where I was. I looked at the surveillance monitor inside the booth, and my soul left my body, and I saw 3 monks approaching us from the depths of the cemetery, walking along the main path. Another 3 monks approaching from the side of the street to enter through the door that I had just closed. As best I could, I entered the booth, closed the door, turned my back on the monitor, and called my headquarters by radio, reporting the presence of strangers inside the cemetery. I did not want to turn to the monitor or the window so as not to go into shock, perhaps until minutes after my supervisor's patrol car arrived, almost at the same time that a police patrol took a few minutes to break the chain that had just been placed. I explained the situation to them, that I did not know the whereabouts of my partner, and I lied to the police and my supervisor, saying that a group of antisocial-looking young people entered the cemetery. I lied. I know I wasn't willing to tell them that some ghostly-looking monks had sneaked into my guard shortly after the departure time was given, and later they told me that my companion was at home, safe and sound. They did not explain to me why he disappeared, abandoning his guard in the cemetery, but they told me that he had asked to speak with me, which I left for later, and eventually I forgot to call him 2 months later. Another of my colleagues told me that my colleague had just died. They changed my guard to a hospital under construction, and when I passed by that cemetery since then, it was about 2 years later, I had to see that guard dog who I was looking towards the side of the main door. Apparently, after the death of my partner, the cemetery adopted him, the things that dog had had to experience. Thank you for listening to me, and I hope to have the opportunity to share with you another of my experiences.